Hey everyone, it's Alissa Coram here, and I'm back with another IBD Live clip for you featuring Mike Webster, former IBD head market strategist. And in this video, Mike details what he believes is the most valuable thing that IBD founder Bill O'Neil passed along to the trading community.
In my opinion, Bill came up with so many valuable things that he shared with all of us that we're so lucky to. The one that gets the most overlooked, which I think is the most powerful thing that he came up with, was the week by week analysis that he would do. And the two of us did a ton of separate work on that, trying to automate it and come up with rules. But he would often go over this at a seminar. And I think everyone should do this, because we would do this all the time on Sundays and go through stocks when they were marginal. And there was this question, like the ANET, it's like the fundamentals look stellar. They look like what you would think the supercomputer that we were looking at earlier should look like based on the move that it had, but something is funky with it. And so what he would do is he would do a week by week of the base. So can we blow this up even more? Zoom in more on it. Okay, even more. Okay. So when he would do it, he would start with your first week in your base. And the concept was, and for this, I'm going to use volume because that's the classic O'Neil way of interpreting a base. And so you can't get away from the volume for that. So it's this combination of the closing price for the week, what the volume did relative to the rest of the base. And well, let's just go through it. And I always used to tell people to print off the chart, use a red pen and a blue pen and mark up their bases this way, because I mean, in the end, you're using a red pen for negative stuff, a blue pen for positive stuff. You'll have a very clear picture of what it is, it good or bad. So that first week in there, you've got 2 weeks tight. That's positive. It's a high closing range. That's positive. Volume picked up a little bit versus the prior week. That's negative. But on balance, that's a positive week. So he would circle in bases 2 weeks tight in there. It wasn't just 3 weeks. So he would circle that with a well, he would circle it with black pen, but I would use a blue pen or a green pen, something positive. Then your next week, you come down with bad closing range, 23%, but your volume dried up. So when a base forms, a stock is going to be coming down. So light volume, relatively tight spread, that's positive. So even though it closed in the bottom part of the range at 23%, I'm not going to mark it as negative. I'm not going to mark it as positive, but in concept, it's positive. The next week is an inside week, high and lows contained within it. That's positive, but you don't really have the volume confirming it. So I'm not marking that, but if anything, it's positive. Next week, the volume picks up versus the prior week. So it doesn't have to be heavy volume versus the average. It just has to be heavier than the prior week for it to be bad or good. So that's telling you volume picked up. It broke that little level and it closed at the bottom. So that's all negative. The only good thing is it stopped at the 10 week, but it's still negative. Next week, positive, right? You can see the reasons why we were able to make it back through there. Volume picked up, second highest volume week in the base. The next week is, I always make this joke. What's good about that, Arusha? Because you're like playing on Twitter right now. You're not even paying attention to me.
I'm enjoying this. I miss this. I'm just like
So
looking
what's
glued
good?
to the screen.
What's good about that week?
What's good about it? It came down. There's not a lot that's good about it, but it did find some support at least around the 40-week moving average. I don't think, and the closing range
21%.
It's only 21%. Yeah. So I don't see too much good about that one.
Yeah, exactly. It did stop at the kind of at the top of the prior base, which is something Bill would always look at. That's a logical place where it should get support from big institutions. But yeah, it broke so badly. You're right. There's really not much good there. The next week, the little inside week isn't telling you much. Then the second blue week there was constructive. The volume picked up. Nice closing range. So that's a definite plus. And then the following week, you have this straight up from the bottom thing, which Bill looks at as negative in most cases. Second highest volume in there, so that's good. Close at the top of the range, you make a bunch of price progress, but now you're in a position where you can't really buy it because you're straight up from the bottom and you want it to do something else. And so then it pokes up into new high ground. Now it's out of its base, so you're not really dissecting it the same way. So he would look at the week by week analysis of the base itself and do that on basically all bases. Lots of times I think was just subconsciously, because if you do it enough, you just see it and you automatically go, that's a good base, that's a bad base. But that's how you should do it. And the more you do it, and this is where I would use volume with it, because the volume confirms things. And on an aggregate of an entire week, it's more meaningful than an intraday basis, in my opinion. So I would say that's a negative base. Great fundamentals. I don't understand why there's that disconnect. I hope that helps.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
with the straight off from the bottom, with that volume being lower than the whoosh down, the highest volume, would you make that more another negative there?
Well, going back to the Reg FD thing that we were talking about, you now have those volume spikes, right? We get 4 big volume spikes a year because of the earnings.
So,
Then we also get volume spikes
the
to a lesser
Options
extent,
expiration.
option expiration, Russell rebalancing, S&P rebalancing, offerings, things like that. So I would take that with a grain of salt. Now, if it had that same volume in there and it wasn't an earnings week, it would be much more meaningful that that volume didn't end up getting as high up, if that makes sense.
I hope you enjoyed this clip, and if you want more IBD Live, make sure you tune in every weekday morning at investors.com/IBD Live, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on all the latest videos and other interviews with trading experts. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.